Good afternoon, soon to be evening, lovely people. How are you all today? I hope you're well. Welcome to my first official Sunday on the sofa. Yay! So I think some of you will remember, you'll have seen it a couple of months ago. I can't believe it was a couple of months ago now. That's my washing machine. Is that going to be really annoying? I will carry on. It's life, isn't it? Yeah, so a couple of months ago I had my little podding party where I sat here podding some Coco de Pampol, I think it was, and invited you to join me with you doing your podding whilst I was doing mine. And it went down really well with all of you. Thank you so much for your fantastically positive feedback. And it is something I've been thinking about doing for a while, was a little strand of videos. There won't be a huge amount, but just having a little strand of videos where, on the occasions where I'm not, frantically busy in the garden or doing stuff in the kitchen and showing you, there are loads of times when I'm sat here doing something. Usually it's something to do with processing my harvests. And when I'm doing it, I talk to myself anyway, and even if I don't actually talk aloud, I'm always talking inside my head. So it's one of those things I thought I'd kind of like to share it with you all, because there are some things, I just want to chat about, which aren't necessarily gardening or kitchen, and they're not necessarily the sort of the bigger subjects which I tend to deal with in my thoughts on videos, what have you. So yeah, it seemed like the perfect format, and you all seem to enjoy it, thank you. And I think what I've discovered as well, so for instance when I'm doing this kind of job that I'm going to do today, I really like listening to YouTube channels where it's just people talking, I can just listen, I don't have to actually watch the screen. So in other words, I get all the enjoyment from it, but I can have my eyes down, concentrating on what I'm doing without missing anything. And I know there are a lot of you out there who knit, who crochet, who sew, who make cards. I'll come on to making cards in a second, it's made me laugh so much. So it just seems perfect. A perfect balance of me being able to share some time with you whilst I get on with one of my jobs, you can get on with one of your jobs, and we can just all hang out together. Yay! And I don't know whether this will be a regular, but today I've got a little glass of wine again. I know it looks like a big glass. I have spritzed it. Thank you so much to Gabriella who sent me some wine. Cheers, Gabriella. And I know she's probably frowning because I've spritzed it. I have tried it without spritzing it, but I'm trying to make it go further. So, chin chin. The pink is rather apt for what I'm going to do today. More of that later. And as I've just said, having a glass of wine on a Sunday is not a weekly habit of mine, not by any means. But I happen to have been gifted some. I've got a frog in my throat. I've also got my water on standby. So, excuse me, keeping it real, I get a frog in my throat, I need some water. Right, well, today, what are we doing? First of all, before I start, I've got my little pile of bits and pieces I wanted to mention. So, at the end of month 30, I mentioned about sending a postcard to a friend that you haven't maybe spoken to, certainly not written to in a while, just for the sake of it. I love it when I receive cards or postcards or letters outside of my birthday or Christmas. And I think, the art of letter writing, it just seems to be disappearing, doesn't it? For the most part, of course, it's quicker, easier and cheaper to email someone rather than to write an actual physical letter. And probably, for the most part, it's better for the environment too. But we all know what it's like when we go downstairs in the morning, look at the front doormat or go to the mailbox, wherever it is you pick up your mail, and invariably there are all the boring brown envelopes which are something to do with work or bills or the government or whatever. You know, it's just myriad brown envelopes. We all know what it's like to go to the doormat and see a pink envelope or a purple envelope. And like I say, so often these only appear at birthdays. So go on, write a letter to someone, write a card, literally, even if it's just a postcard that says, I'm thinking of you, I hope you're well. It will make such a difference to someone's day. Well, you guys, you're marvellous. So in one of the last gardening videos, I showed you quite a few cards and postcards I'd had. But what I didn't mention on that day, and I've had more mail today, was this lovely, it's actually a little notebook. You see, I don't understand a word of it, it's all in Italian. It's got little, oh, it's going to be too bright to see, let me turn it that way. You see here, there's little literary quotes underneath. That's Pascal, there's Goethe, Dickinson, Gibran. So I don't speak a word, well, I was going to say I don't speak a word of Italian. I've got a few words, I need to translate it. But that's from Susan, thank you so much. But what I loved is, Suzanne, wrote me this lovely, long, chatty letter. It's great, thank you, Suzanne. But what made me chuckle about it, she's recycled paper, there's printed stuff on the back. What made me chuckle is, as Suzanne herself said, we're all so accustomed to writing on computers these days with spell check. So she was worried about her spelling. To be honest, Suzanne, I'm such a terrible speller. Even if you spelt something wrong, I would not have noticed it. But, you know, it just shows, doesn't it, how all this technology that's around us is brilliant, but in some ways it's de-skilling us, you know, the basics of writing, the basics of spelling. So go on, write a handwritten note or letter to someone. And then I had this lovely, another lovely long chatty letter from Renee. So first of all, Renee, all I will say, keeping your confidentiality, is I'm glad you're through the worst of it. But one part of this made me laugh my head off. It's random as anything. So Renee hand makes cards, which you'll have seen over the last couple of years. I've shown a couple of them when I've been down at the shed. And actually a beautiful envelope she made that was so beautiful. I now have it sort of standing on its end in my shed with a load of my little plant labels tucked into it. So beautiful. Far too beautiful to put into the paper recycling. Anyway, so Renee makes her cards, and she said that her sister, this is so random, her sister has asked for hippopotamus, hippo-themed Christmas cards. I don't get it, I don't understand. I mean, I love it, why not? But just the thought of receiving a Christmas card with a hippopotamus on the front. Happy Christmas from the hippo. It's too mad. Absolutely mad as a bag of ears. But how wonderful. The other thing that's just come in the post, my polling card, because as well, pretty much everyone in the UK will know by now, and no doubt quite a few of you across the rest of the globe will probably know, we are having a general election on the 12th of December. Way to go to spoil Christmas, guys! Listen, I'm not going to go into politics, please don't worry, because then I will start saying lots of words which I will have to bleep out, and I don't know how to do that properly yet. Suffice to say that I think they're all as bad as each other. I think they're all self-serving, greedy, fat cats who have zero idea of what real life is like for real people with ordinary jobs where they earn less than £20,000 a year. trying to get by. No, I find that a lot of them disgust me, and the systematic chipping away at and preparing to privatise our National Health Service makes me beyond angry. I mean, I can look at our NHS both from the inside and from the outside, and it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. Free healthcare. Free. So if you're told you've got some horrid, nasty disease that could kill you, but actually we can have a jolly good go at curing you, it's going to cost the NHS £75,000. But don't worry, you're not going to have to pay for that. We will save your life for free. It's amazing. You know, countries all over the world look to us to look at our health service and how it works. And it's held up as an example of what we should all have access to all around the world. Anyway, gosh, I said I wasn't going to get political, didn't I? So the long and the short is we've got this blimmin' election, and over the last few years I've just felt really despondent even about voting. You know, I think like with this year, I think, what's the point? What's the point? Because no matter which way I vote, we're still in this quagmire of ghastly selfishness. However, I am going to vote because literally every time I get my polling card, every time I've had this in my hands since the age of 18, I've been thankful that I have it, and I always spare a thought for those women 100 years ago who didn't have the right to do this, and the women all over the world still who don't get to do this. So I take my responsibility as a voter and as a woman voter very seriously. So yes, I shall be voting. I know who I'll vote for. It's probably obvious, isn't it? But I don't know where it'll get me. Anyway. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to go on one. It's just today's mailbag, or yesterday's mailbag. Excuse me, quick blow. You see, I've got all angry. And it's made me produce snot. Keeping it real, like I said. So, what's on the agenda for today? Let's have a slug of wine. Thanks, Gabriella. On the agenda for today is... you see that? That's my bag. My bag of flint corn. Ready for me to process. And I've got here... this is actually my laundry basket. It's empty because, as you just heard, that was the laundry going. Oh, I just found... digressing. I just found 3 really gorgeous bits of fabric. Really vintage fabric. I don't know when they're from. One of them looks quite 50s. One of them looks a bit 60s. Anyway, beautiful, quite long lengths of fabric, which I want to use in my buntings and stuff. But they've obviously been folded for years. They've got slightly dusty on the edges, what have you. So they're all in the machine getting washed, which will now mean an afternoon of ironing all these lengths of fabric whilst they're still quite damp, before I start to think about cutting them. Anyway, so the laundry basket's empty, which is kind of handy because it means I can put into it a bin bag to put all my rubbish from the corn into here and take this back to the allotment. Oh, and just a word about the bin bags. On one today. So, because I live in a flat on a main road, I don't have any backyard space, not even a communal sort of yard area. And at the front, when I come all the way down the stairs to street level to my communal front door, which I share with the other 2 dwellers in this building, our front door, it opens straight on to the footpath, the pavement, the public footpath. So there's no room, oh excuse me, wine, there's no room even outside my front door for a bin. Now, I pay exactly the same for my refuse collection as my friends do who have a brown bin, a green bin, a black bin, a grey bin, all those myriad bins they have outside the fronts of their properties which get collected every week. I pay exactly the same as them. What the council do is they send me an allocation of bin bags. I think they send them out quarterly. Now, as it happens, I rarely use them because, as you know by now, I try to create little waste. I generally make newspaper bins. When they're full, fold it all up and then I'll just put it into a street bin. Obviously all my recycling, I schlep a mile down the road with my recycling to put it into the recycling banks, what have you. So I always have these bin bags delivered and we are supposed to, oh this is so infuriating, I didn't mean to be cross today. We are supposed to on, I think it's a Monday night, after 11 p.m. and before 5 a.m, that's when I'm supposed to put my rubbish out. I wrote to the council about this to say, can you give me another time slot? Because for instance, if I was doing a night shift, I'd be at work between 11 and 5. And I'm sure there are loads of people who live up and down this street who do shift work as well. You know, these are not rich people's flats, these are poor people's flats, these are flats that belong to people who are likely to be doing low paid shift work like me or like I was. So no, it has to be between 11 and 5. But can you imagine it? By 11 o'clock at night, generally I've had my bath, I'm in my pyjamas, I don't want to go out the front door, walk up the street, up the hill to the dumping collection point. I don't want to do that. 5 in the morning, what do you expect me to do? Get up at 4:30, walk up there in my pyjamas. Anyway, that's what I have to do. But as a consequence, I really don't use these bin bags very much at all. I'm going to start in on the corn because I realise I'm gassing too much. Yeah, I hardly ever use them for actual rubbish. So I just keep a stack of them. I keep a load of them in the shed, and they're just really useful for bringing home bulky stuff like the corn, especially if it's a bit wet, as this is. I wonder if this is going to be too noisy to do while I'm talking to you all. Well, there's only one way to find out. So something I didn't know, which I've been told about this week. So I put the video out yesterday. Was it yes? I've lost track of time. 2 days ago. Of the flint corn harvest. And I was talking about the silks because I hadn't realised until this year that every silk represents a kernel. What I should have said at the time, I don't think I'm going to have an example of it. Oh, this one will be. When the silks first appear, you'll see them sticking out the end. Look, you see they're quite yellowy. And those ones I showed you the other day were really quite dark, rusty brown. And it's the same for sweet corn. One of the indicators that your corn is ready is when the tassels, when the silks go brown. What I hadn't known, like I said, was that each silk represents a kernel. Look at the colour! Oh, look, baby pinks in this one. Isn't that gorgeous? But here's something with fab I didn't know. All these silks, which is why, in case you're wondering, I've been sitting next to this bowl. I'm going to save them. Actually, just before I talk about that, you can see on this one, you see all the yellow ones at the top that haven't been pollinated, and you can see here on the cob, corresponding, I've got no kernel development. Isn't that interesting? Never knew that. Yeah, so what I've literally just learned from Molly, thank you Molly, via my Facebook page, and Anne via my YouTube page. Actually, let me just show you these two. I think this is a maturity difference. Can you see the strength of colour in this one? It was much more dry. I think this one's a bit immature. What I don't know is if it will ripen anymore now that I've got it off the plant. Yes, so thank you to Molly and Anne. They both pointed out, it's fantastic, waste not, want not, that I can actually make a tea from their silks. Corn silk tea. I mean, doesn't that sound gorgeous? So as I go through all of these, yes, I'm going to be saving the silks and drying them to use as a tea. I have no idea how it's going to taste. Am I going to spit it out? Is it going to be really, really rank? No idea. But apparently it's good for the bladder. So, you know, as a bladder tonic. Now, I've never had any issues with my bladder. I've never had a bladder infection, you know, anything like that, thank goodness. But obviously as we age, I'm not talking about now at 50 odd, I'm talking about, you know, 85, 90 plus, all the parts of our body start to get run down a bit, and we do lose tone in our bladders, hence, and I'm sure any of you with elderly relatives will have experienced it. Oh, this one's almost all black. You see, you just never know what you're going to get. Look at that one. Oh, hang on, let's get these tassels saved. Beautiful. It's like when I used to henna my hair, a sort of an orangey purple colour, that's the colour they would look. Look at this, gorgeous. Beautiful. Yes, so like I say, any of us with elderly relatives will know that, you know, urinary incontinence it's almost inevitable, isn't it, at that stage in age in life. So look, anything I can do now to give my bladder some good tone, brilliant. But also, I mean, if it was just going to be a sort of a bladder tonic, I don't know whether I would bother. I'd certainly try. I'd try at least once anyway, put it that way. But Molly was saying it's also good as an anti-inflammatory. And let's face it, not just in terms of knees, but, you know, life is full of stress. Stress can cause inflammation. So I think having any anti-inflammatories in the diet is great. So yes, the silks are going to be saved. Look, it looks like a hairdresser's. It's like I've trimmed a blonde lady, a chestnut burgundy, gorgeous. So I'll get these all, you know, peeled. Peeled, is that the right word for it? When I turn back all their layers. And I think I'll see, I don't know what room I've got here. Honestly, I'm so running out of room to dry anything at home now. That they might end up going back to the shed. We'll see. Some of them are really yucky wet. That's why I've got my pinny on and a tea towel here. I think if I wasn't chatting to you all today, this is definitely the kind of job I would do with the radio on. And oh my goodness, crazy silks. And I think you all know by now that I'm a mega sports fan. I mean, I will pretty much listen to and or watch any sport, pretty much anything. I don't watch darts, but I don't really count that as a sport. That's a pub game, isn't it? Games. I don't watch games, so I don't watch snooker, I don't watch darts, anything like that. The only sport I've never really got into is cricket, which is a shame. But I think it's partly because you know, growing up, it wasn't anything that my mum was into. So we just never had it on the radio. And then, you know, later on, I've never had a boyfriend that's been into it. All my boyfriends have been into like rugby or tennis. So they've been into the same sports that I've been into. Football. I don't get to watch as much football these days. But in an ideal world, if I could have my absolute like pick of what sport would you watch or listen to whilst you're sorting out your flint cord, maybe, it would be either look at that monster. I think I've got more stalk than cob there. Hang on a sec. Oh, they're really soggy. Let's just see if I can twist it off that. Last thing I want is to squish a slug inadvertently. Yeah, my top 3 sports. Tennis. Running a very close second, athletics. Oh, and running a really close third is cycling. So with the cycling, I prefer road cycling over velodrome, but having said that, I love watching sprints in the velodrome. Crazy. I think cyclists are actually clinically deranged people. But no, my favourite is the road racing, particularly the long races. So Tour de France, Vuelta, Giro, Tour of Britain, all of those. Oh, fantastic. The Vuelta this year that's the one in Spain, was crazy good. Literally in the first, I think it was over the course of the first 7 stages, I think it was, the leader's jersey changed hands every day. It was so close. Also, I've never seen a single race with so many terrifying, just mental crashes. Absolutely crazy. No one was seriously hurt, thank goodness, but so many crashes. It was bonkers. And who is that one? Oh, I've forgotten his name now. Anyway, there was one rider who, I think it was by about the 9th stage, he'd lost the leader's jersey, and it was a mountain stage, I think, and he was in a group of 2, and they were chasing the leaders who were a group of 2. I mean, the peloton was way behind, but it was really steep, you know, kind of, his blimmin' team car nearly ran him over. It was bonkers. Anyway, yeah, so I love a bit of road racing. And it's funny, I think maybe that's why I love summer so much. I love summer in the garden, but all my favourite sports are summer sports. So it literally starts for me in June with the French Open at Roland Garros. Gets me in the mood. And then when that's over, you know, we have Edgbaston, Queens, Eastbourne, all those kind of pre-Wimbledon, the grass court warm-up tournaments. It gets so exciting. And then Wimbledon comes along, and then Wimbledon finishes, and I'm so sad the tennis is over, but hey, I've got the Tour de France to watch and listen to. Oh, it's just brilliant. And this year, of course, after the Tour de France, then we have the Vuelta, and after all that had finished, we had the athletics, the World Championships at Doha, which was, again, it was amazing. And then that finished. Oh, and then straight after the World Champs at Doha, the athletics, it was then the World Championships for the gymnastics, which I think is my 4th favourite sport. It's like having kids, isn't it? How can you choose your favourite? But yeah, I do. So yeah, I would. This is the kind of thing. The perfect afternoon for me is to have one of these kind of jobs that's sitting here, that's maybe a bit fiddly, it doesn't require any concentration in terms of, there's no thought processes, so I can completely free my mind to concentrating to whatever's on the radio. I've done that a bit awkwardly, haven't I? And I've got it all over the sofa. Let's put it right in front of me there. Be brilliant. But the other thing, of course, is having talking books. I like doing this sort of thing with talking books as well. And actually, the talking books, that's one of my absolute favourites if I'm doing a load of ironing. Now, don't get any funny ideas about me, you lot. I'm not talking about ironing my own clothes. I ain't got no time for that nonsense. No way. Stuff that. I don't iron my clothes. Just when they come out of the wash, give them a good shake the worst of the creases out, and that's it. But I do quite a lot of ironing for the shop. Whether it's fabric that I'm going to then cut up to make the bunting with, or, you know, when I find these beautiful vintage tablecloths and cushions and all that sort of thing, napkins, what have you. I absolutely love looking for and buying linens for the shop. I think it's my absolute favourite thing for the shop. So, you know, every now and again I'll have a mammoth session, because with a lot of these sort of vintage cloths, obviously I get everything washed before it goes into the shop, and then I'm really careful I try to press everything beautifully so that by the time you receive it, it's gorgeous. But I do really take my time over it. So some things get hand washed, some things can be machine washed, which is great, saves so much time. But yeah, when it comes to pressing, I take a lot of time over it, way more time than I would if I was doing it for myself. But like I say, I want things to be perfect for you guys. So if I was doing that, then a talking book is great company. And my preferred kind of book, I mean, I'll listen to anything, but I've got this little guilty pleasure. I can't remember whether I've ever mentioned it on my Facebook page. I know that Richard and Paul and myself were talking about it recently because of sort of like afternoon telly or afternoon listening when doing these kind of jobs. I really love Poirot. I've got this real thing for, well, I love John Suchet in part, or is it David Suchet? I always forget which brother it is. It's one of the Suchet boys. But yeah, I love it. I love a good old-fashioned whodunit. I used to watch things like CSI, NCIS, all that stuff years ago. Not anymore. But there's something about the modern stuff. I don't know whether it's just too close to home, it's a bit too violent, what have you. But yeah, you know, someone being clobbered to death by a candlestick in the Gothic villa at the bottom of the garden in 1926. It just kind of seems like harmless fun. So yeah, don't tell anyone, but that's my guilty secret, my guilty pleasure. We all have them, don't we? Oh my goodness, well that one hasn't done anything. So what I don't know with the silks is, are they any good for tea while they're still blonde before they've been pollinated? That one didn't do anything. I'll give them a go. They can all be added to the bowl. Who knows? Oh, let's have a slug of wine. Cheers, everyone. My interests, though, I've just looked at the clock. Crikey, I'm not getting very far with all this lot. And I don't want to keep you here all day. By the way, did you all pick up something to do at the same time? I hope you did, because I don't think this video would stand up to being simply sat and watched. Partly because half the time I've got my head down. And I think one of the things with making videos is that I feel like eye contact is so important. And I know, obviously I edit my own videos, so I'm perfectly aware. And I think also from having been an actor, I'm always aware of how I present myself. That, you know, there are lots of times I'm sitting in the shed and my eyes drift and I start to look out the window and I get distracted. But yeah, For a watching video, eye contact is really important. So yes, like I say, I hope you've all got something in your hands to do, because otherwise it's going to be really boring to just look at the top of my head. Maybe it's boring anyway. I don't know. You know, at this stage, I kind of don't care. I mean, I do care. I don't want to bore anybody. But, there's always going to be someone who's got an issue with whatever I do. Never mind. And if I wasn't doing this today, if I wasn't listening to a book, if I wasn't listening to sport, what else would I be doing? Well, to be honest, these days, most of my hours, that one's really pathetic, but there are a few on there, and as with everything, waste not, want not. I'll dry it, there'll be a few on there I can get off. Yeah, to be honest, these days, there's not much time when I'm not doing something that's either related to the garden and storing produce, or that's not related to me making videos and processing them, or that's not something to do with stock for the shop, or that's not something to do with sewing. It's like, what I'm trying to say is there's very little free time these days. That's not to say I don't enjoy my time. I do. I think, you know, as you can see from this, I'm perfectly happy doing this afternoon. The tennis will be on again soon. It's the ATP Tour Finals, so I shall treat myself to an undistracted watch of that, because it's the final. It's going to be great. Anyway, yeah, so if I wasn't doing all of this, if I did have some free time, then, you know, I'd probably read. Love reading. I miss it because I hardly do any reading these days, and I know it's something folk have asked about on numerous occasions. Maybe I'll do it one of these days. Maybe I'll do it as a little Sunday on the sofa natter with you all about my books, because they really are quite varied, ranging in subject matter. I think I'm a bit of a, what's the word? Is it a polyglot? A polymath? I'm a poly something. Poly meaning many. You know, my reading varies between, obviously, literature. Mostly, I would say, literary literature, classics, what have you, apart from Jane Austen. Ugh, I can't stand Jane Austen. Oh, simpering, whimpering nonsense. I can't stand it. Sorry, if any of you really love Jane Austen, can't stand her. Give me the Bronte sisters any day of the week. Those girls have got some chutzpah. Yeah, so obviously there's literature on my shelves, but otherwise, I mean, everything interests me. Natural history, exploration, science, maths, art. I will literally get my nose stuck into and enjoy pretty much anything. If a book is well written, I'm going to love it on pretty much any subject. So I don't think you could, it's one of those cases, isn't it, of if you went and looked at someone's bookcase, could you tell what kind of person they were if you didn't know them from their bookcase? I think you'd have a bit of a problem with mine, because it doesn't really seem to make sense, you know. There's children's illustrated books side by side with polar exploration and mountaineering next to Virginia Woolf. I think possibly, looking at my shelf, if you looked at half of it, you'd think, oh, this is a bloke's collection of books, this is a bloke's library. And the other half you'd be like, oh yeah, this is some raving feminist's library. And another bit you'd think, oh, this is definitely an artist. Definitely an artist lives in this house. Who lives in a house like this? Who reads a book like this? So, I'm sorry, that was a really bad impression of, oh, what's his name who did that show and now he makes really rubbish pasta sauce. I don't know if it's rubbish. I shouldn't say that. I just mean it's rubbish because it's ready-made and shop-bought. What's his... You know the guy. Oh, Lloyd Grossman, that's it. What a gross man. Yeah, so I don't think... Oh, I'd love that actually. That would be really funny. I would love someone who doesn't know me. I'd love someone to come into my flat and especially to look at my bookshelves and try to figure out the person who lives here. I bet you're all imagining that for your own homes now, aren't you, as well? Go and have a look at your bookcase and try to be dispassionate about it. Go and have a look at all your books and think, what kind of person lives here? Yay! Oh, the light's going. I don't know if you can see. This camera, I think it's not too bad at picking up light because I can look on the screen there, there's a screen next to it, and I can tell you the screen looks much brighter than it actually feels in here. I need to get a wriggle on. So anyway, I think, I'm just looking at the clock now, yeah, the time is really cracking on. I'm gonna, well, the washing has finished. I need to get those bits of fabric ironed before they set their creases. And they're, like I say, they're really, really beautiful and I can't wait to start cutting into them and making things with them. Isn't it great when the fabric inspires you? I love it. It's one of the reasons, I said I was going to go, didn't I? It's one of the reasons I really love sewing is the fabrics, finding beautiful fabrics. They're just a joy to work with. Actually, I've just made a whole load of new buntings that have just gone into the shop. And when they were all at the pinning stage, so when I pinned the flags into the webbing, I spent a whole day pinning. I think they're about 10 lengths in the end. And to keep them nice, I spread them across my bed to keep everything flat and nice. And I glanced at it and it was a really grotty, rainy day. I've had so many of those recently. And I just looked at all these beautiful fabrics and the colours and even the webbings. I've gone for some different colours with the webbings, some yellows and some greens in there. And I was looking at it and I was like, what a joyful sight. I took a picture of it. I've not shared it with anyone. I took a picture of it purely for me, so that if there's a really grotty day sometime soon and I'm feeling a bit the whole idea of taking this picture is so I could just have my screen full of all these beautiful colours again. Yes, so what was I saying? I need to stop doing this. This can wait. I can carry on doing this later with the tennis. For now, I need to go and empty the washing machine, get those fabrics out, have a little wash first. Oh, and then I will... Now, what I don't know about the corn silk tea, doesn't it sound lovely? Corn silk tea. It sounds like something a lady would have in... Oh, here goes the Poirot again. A 1920s lady having her corn silk tea, not realising, of course, that there is potassium cyanide in the tea. Hope not. Yeah, I will try this corn silk tea. What I was trying to say is, I don't know whether it's a tea you could have fresh. Like if I'll try it actually. I'll try it in a minute. I'll just brew up 1 cupful. I'll try it as a fresh. The rest of it I will dry because I think both Molly and Anne mentioned it dried, and then try it. If it's vile and hideous, they can go in the compost heap. It's worth trying though, isn't it? So, let me wrap up. Didn't even finish my wine. Yes. Gosh, I've got muck everywhere. It's always the way, isn't it? I think it might be a hoovering day today too. I don't hoover very often, which sounds disgusting, I know. What I mean is, because I've got hardwood floors, normally I just sweep, but then every now and again I do a hoover just because, yeah, there's little tiny bits of thread. Wherever you look in my home, there are little bits of thread, because as I'm sewing and as I'm snipping, I'll pick it up later. Invariably ends up on the floor. Never mind. So, thank you so much for joining me today. Like I say, I hope you, just one more as I say cheerio. I hope you had a project on the go while you listened. Do let me know, because I love hearing about all your projects, whether it's, especially like the knitting and crochet, just because, well, I've never learned to crochet, I can't crochet. I did learn to knit when I was younger, I was taught to knit, as everybody in my family has been over the years. But you know, when your sister is such a fantastic knitter, you kind of realise at a young age, you know what, there's no point in me even trying it, because she's going to whoop my backside with whatever I do. And my cousin, this is one of her crochets. You see, it's gorgeous. Each square is a different crochet stitch, and it doubles out. Look, it's massive. That was my my 50th birthday present from my cousin. So, you know, I can't compete with her crocheting either. So I love hearing about knitting and crochet projects, because it's something I will never ever be able to do, get round to doing, what have you. I stick to sewing, and occasionally, rarely, a bit of embroidery even. Actually, those days are long gone too. That is something I definitely don't have time for. Oh, I'm about to start whittering on again. I was literally gonna show you some embroidery then, but I'm not going to, because otherwise we're gonna be here forever, aren't we? And I need to do that ironing. So, thank you for joining me, whatever you were doing at the same time. Hopefully, well, I'm sure we can have another Sunday on the sofa soon, because what have I got to do? I've got all my calendula seeds to sort. I've got more sewing to do. I was thinking, oh, I know what I've got to do. I've got so much to do on the sofa in the next few weeks. I've got all my lavender to get off the stalks. I've got a load of rosemary to get off their stalks. I've got loads to keep me occupied in this little spot. So I'm sure long we can sit and have a Sunday on the sofa together again. Yay! For now though, I'm going to say cheerio. Have a lovely, happy rest of your Sunday. If you've started a project that you're hoping to finish today, I hope you can get it finished. Actually, I'm sure there are quite a lot of you who are doing projects now as Christmas presents for this Christmas, aren't you? Exciting. So, whatever you're up to, have fun doing it. And you know what? It's Sunday. Ignore that. That's the knitting police. They've come to check on me. Yeah, whatever you're up to, have fun doing it. And remember, you know, take Sunday or take some day in the week to be your quiet day. A day of some time for yourself to do these lovely, simple, sitting down jobs. See you again soon. Bye for now.